Brenna Wilson, a financial advisor. Now you're thinking there's so many financial advisors. What could possibly be different? Well, I wanted to speak to her after learning about her. She's in the Colorado area, but just a fascinating background. Her parents, when she was young, had a very successful restaurant, and she had this very kind of terrible relationship with money, almost guilt, where she would spend it because she felt she had too much, and she would spend it to her own detriment on her friends. And she went through many jobs, and by accident eventually became in the finance industry, in the financial advisor role. One of the quotes she has on her website that I absolutely love: by shifting the distribution of wealth in the world, the LGBTQ plus community grows stronger. We talk about that, how it evens everything out, and the relationship with money, and how mental health plays a role in managing money. Also, one of her things she loves to talk about, one of her favorite subjects, are aha moments, where she talks to her clients about managing and what should be expected, mindset, personal growth. Just a great conversation. By challenging our money stories, we open ourselves to abundance. Another quote that we talk about that she had posted. She also has this great essay about not having enough gas in her car and the lessons she learned. Just a great story. She opens up. She's very vulnerable. She's very honest. She's very genuine. I really enjoyed talking to Brenna. Thanks so much for listening. Hi, I'm Joey Pins. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business and it lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission: how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family, in their passion, in their careers, and how it helped them. Our podcast vision: growth through learning from others. Joey Pins Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Goodness, Brenna Wilson, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to talk to you. So, why should people hire someone to marshal and to rally and really organize their finances?
That's a great question. That's a question I get often, I would say. With all of the information that is out there these days,
Hmm.
there's so many opportunities to learn and do it yourself. And so I like to use the example of a personal trainer. You can absolutely get the health goals that you want on your own. You can have the nutrition that you want to have, you can do the exercises you want to do, and you can absolutely get results. However, if you use a personal trainer, right, your results usually happen maybe a little bit faster
Hmm.
or they're more efficient. And also, you have someone there supporting you, keeping you accountable, cheering you on when things aren't going well and you're wanting to
Hmm.
not get up in the morning to exercise, right? So, having someone in your corner to support you in your financial world, and then also just to have the information that maybe you don't want to look up yourself.
Hmm.
A lot of people that I work with, they want to understand what's going on with their money, but they don't want to know it to the depth that you might need to know it in order to really be successful. And that's where I come in, is that person that works with someone and is always available, always researching, always understanding what's happening, and then customizing it for whatever it is that they need.
You make a point about behavior financing. You can't make lasting changes without understanding behavior. Let's talk about behavior.
Ooh, behavior. This one
Yeah.
gets everybody, doesn't it? One of my favorite books is The Habits of Highly Effective People, right? Everyone knows that book. And it's so true because everything that we do comes back to habits. And what comes from the habits are actually beliefs, and they kind of work hand
Hmm.
in hand, right? If you have a habit of going to the gym, you believe that going to the gym is going to make you better or be healthier for you or get you a result that you're looking for. And so when we have habits or what we call behaviors that influence the way that we do things in any aspect of our lives, it really creates that lasting change. If we do that habit, that behavior on a consistent basis, it means that we believe that it's a good thing for us, or it could be a bad thing, depending on the
Mm.
habit. But it's really that behavior that drives us to do the next piece, to really make that lasting change or stay where we're at, whatever works best for you.
Yeah, and it leads to my next point, but which is your point, where you talk about, behaviors and beliefs often stem from childhood, and you make the point of saying, how did your parents treat money, and what did you witness? Because that's how it'll kind of be manifested with you. It's a very interesting point.
hmm You know, a while ago, I hated the idea of therapy, which I think people in the older generations generally feel that way.
Mm.
It's been a stigma. And I always thought, well, why does it always have to come back to childhood? Why is it always that?
Mm.
And it's not always. However, that's where we learn the most is in childhood. And that's where we gain most of our perspective around the world, life, family, how things work, because our parents are doing their best to make sure that we get the information that we need. However, they come at it from a certain perspective. It's how they grew up, it's how they've lived their lives, it's the experiences that they have. So in childhood, we're bringing all this information in, sifting through it, trying to figure it out. And unless you go back and look at that information again when you become an adult, whether that's at 18 for some people, or it might not be until you're 40, whenever you feel like you're an adult, you have to go back and check, okay, this is what I learned.
Hmm.
Do I still believe that? Is that still valid? Is that still working for me? Um, and you might do that often in your life, and it also depends on where you are at in life with your experiences. It might have worked for you before, but it might not work for you now.
Mm.
It got you to where you are, but if you want to get somewhere else, you might have to look at it in a different way.
Yeah, you bring up the point that your family had a very successful restaurant there, and sorry about that. A very successful restaurant. You had a almost guilty feeling or relationship with money, and you would buy things for others at your detriment, and just kind of level the playing field. So it's something you had to overcome, which is very interesting point.
Yeah, it was hard for me to look back at that, right? Because when you think about it, I grew up in a upper middle class family, and I hate that I had problems, right, with money
Mm.
because I had way more opportunities than a lot of other people do. However, I still had this thing around, oh, I want to fit in as much as possible. And that's really important for me. I want to fit in. I want to feel like I'm part of the crew. And connection is one of my highest values. So I believe that that's where it's driving from, is being able to connect with people. And so living a life of people thinking that I had more money than I did, especially because it was my parents and not me necessarily,
Mm.
made me move in a direction because I had this belief that I had to make up for it.
Hmm.
I had to change how I was seen and make up for it in some way in order to fit in. And so spending money on other people was a way for me to feel connected, feel like I was part of the group, and also like, hey, I know I'm doing better off than some of you. I want to help. And there's nothing wrong with helping people. That's why we do what we do, generally, most of us. Um, but there's a difference between helping people because you don't feel good about yourself, you're not confident about yourself, or you're trying to help them to prove something to yourself, or maybe it's just I'm helping you because I want to help you. And I can come from a place of power, and I say this a lot to my clients of I have the power to help you because I've already helped myself and I'm in a great place, as opposed to helping someone and not being able to help ourselves.
Mm. Yeah, all too often, especially as children, we feel that kind of guilt, and we want to try to help others in the hopes that perhaps it'll help ourself.
Mhm.
You know, I'm of a certain age. I'm in my mid 50s, and as a kid in the 80s, there was a popular sitcom on where the parents were a doctor and a lawyer, and the son said something like, "We're rich. We could buy a new car," and then the father said, "Your mother and I are rich.
Yes.
You are not." And so oftentimes, I have friends that grew up similarly, and they just have a very odd relationship with money, and I have other friends that the parents would fight often about money, so it changed their perception as well. And it's a very odd thing. My father's from Italy, Europe, and they don't talk about money at all there. It's rude, and
Mhm.
it's amazing. It's almost like sex, right? It's like you put it under the rug and we don't talk about it, and it's just there.
Yeah.
Babies happen, and look, we bought a house, and that's it. Don't ask how. It's very odd, isn't it?
It's really odd. I I often refer to myself as like an adulting coach, right?
Huh?
Because you become an adult when you can actually talk about money, and it is
Right.
really taboo. Like you said, it's like sex, where people will start to get awkward and they don't know what to
Right.
say, and they're not sure how much they should communicate. And I understand that can happen, and I always like to share with people in my circle, my clients, whatever, is that you're absolutely more than welcome to talk about money. However, do it with your circle, with your people that you
Mm,
trust, right? You don't need to
mm,
totally put it out to there to the world unless you feel comfortable about that. But start with the people that you trust, and start with your family, your friends, your spouse, even, so that you can really start to have better conversations. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but I do, and a lot of people do, is our minds can make things up. And if you don't
mm.
say it out loud, then your mind just kind of churns on these things that they get worse as you kind of
Huh.
keep churning on them, right? So I have a lot of clients that come to me for budgeting, and they're always like, "Oh my gosh, it's so bad, it's so terrible." And it can be at times, but oftentimes I find it's not as bad as they think, because
Mm.
if you don't say it out loud, it's just something. It's like a fantasy, or like I don't know, a dream or something. So talking about it with your family, even though it might be rude or taboo, uh, just start with one person that you have confidence in,
Mm.
that can have that conversation and support you.
Yeah, it really rings true what you said, Brenda, there, because often if I'm thinking about when I want to remember something, I write it down. So I have the act of writing it, and then my
Mhm.
eyes see it, and I'm reading it. It just kind of adds all the more dimension. And what you're talking about, with talking with people, kind of letting people in your life, and you're really talking about accountability there, which is a whole nother level of financial services that your kind of services bring to people.
Mhm. Yeah, we are humans, and we can try our
Mm,
hardest to do whatever we want to do, and we all do our best. But the famous quote, "You are the five people that you surround yourself with,"
mm,
um, is rings true, especially when it comes to finances. And having someone like me that can be your accountability person, that can um, support you, as well as give you a perspective outside of yourself. We often get stuck in
hmm,
our own way. We often get stuck in, um, I can't figure this out. I can help other people really well, but I don't understand why I'm struggling. And so that's where the kind of coaching comes along, of helping people understand a different perspective, giving some light in some areas that were like, wait, what is happening? I don't understand why I can't do this one thing. Well, because you have this block over here, and I can see it, and I can help you understand why it's there, and then also move it.
So true. When you're knee deep in those issues, you're just looking at it that perspective. I joined a peer group at one point. I started my business back in the '90s, and it was so easier to work on the company when I was away from the company. We'd travel somewhere, meet once a quarter, and then I would explain what's going on. And then as I was explaining it, I was thinking, wow, this is what they're seeing. Now I'm looking at my company from outside. I think I can attack these problems differently. And then they would let me in on that. It's just those perspectives are just mandatory. They're required.
Hmm. Yeah, really. And, I think that's why I enjoy travel so much and other people enjoy travel so much is
Mm,
because you get a different perspective. You see how other people handle things.
right.
And, being able to have people in your corner that are from different areas, have different experiences, different backgrounds can actually be really helpful because then they say, well, I don't know if this is exactly the same, but I've dealt with something similar in this form. Would this work for you? Or take what you can out of it, and that might work for you. And, I find that, like you, when you step away from something, it actually is better because you get a new perspective. And when you come back, you're refreshed, you have better ideas, and things come a lot more efficiently and quickly to you. So it's a little easier to handle.
Just changing the landscape a bit. I like to play golf and I like to walk when I play, and I turn the phone off, so I'm off the grid and I'm out there and all the grass and the trees, and while I'm concentrating on my shot or whatever I'm doing, it's just nice to kind of get away, and then just thoughts kind of arise, and it's times to reflect. And I mentioned my father's from Italy, from southern Italy, and I would go there as a child. And what I would really learn there is just to kind of relax and not take things too seriously. And of course, they may go overboard with it, but because they just don't do anything. But that's another that's another subject. But,
That's a great
but
life. One day
yeah,
I'll
it
get there
is.
too.
There's no problems. There's no problems. And but my point is that there are other ways to look at things and to get out and get other perspectives and find accountability. Really, really helps. It's fascinating to me how you cite some of the jobs and the industries that you had as a youth to kind of help give perspective to those that would want to work with you. Retail, restaurants, hotels, bike mechanic, ski instructor, restaurant general manager, landscaper. My goodness, you just get everything, get all the experiences you can so you can help shape what you want to do.
Yeah, I always tell people I never expected to be in the financial industry. I
Mm,
kind of just ended up here on a whim. However, all of the experiences that I had in the past kind of brought me here. They each gave me a piece of the puzzle in order to be the advisor that I am today. I've always loved learning how to make money. I want money to work for me because, like most people these days, we all want to retire early or have the option to retire early. And so, tying that along with my love for certain types of people or the outdoors, specifically as a ski instructor or a bicycle mechanic, each of those pieces, managing people with the restaurant and the retail, I just got a good sense of one, how people think. I'm not a
mm.
psychologist. I would love to be. However, I've seen it in the real world, how people think, how people spend money, what's important to someone. And then, most importantly, I feel like it's how to treat people. At the end of the day, we all want to be seen and heard. And that's really what is important. And so I strive to have my practice be that, a place where people can be seen and heard and allow space for someone to talk about something that's difficult, which is money.
Yeah.
Like sex, taboo. It can be
Yeah.
really, really a struggle. And, I have tissues in my office for that specific case. And I have a lot of people say, this feels like therapy. I'm not a therapist.
Wow.
But just having space for people to talk about what they need to talk about, and using each piece that I've learned in my experiences along the way, has been amazing. So it's always good to have different perspectives.
Certainly. And even, like I said, I'm in my mid-50s and, we were never taught money management. There was like home ec or something where it was like how to write checks and stuff like that. But we were never taught to, when you get a check, save 75% and, this kind of thing and, break up and control your expenses. And, so you had to just kind of learn that. And then when you go to buy a house, you're talking about a mortgage and you're not sure where to, it's just, these are all just fundamental skills that should be taught, certainly to the American public, certainly just general to the public as well. And so now you have to kind of work backwards when talking to these people because they feel sometimes shame and not unaware of what they should be doing with their money because everybody's working because we need money and we need money to do things and retire and to have fun and to get education, etc. It's a tough job you have. It's daunting.
It can be sometimes, but it's so rewarding. I mean, one of the
Right.
biggest things that keeps me here is just seeing aha moments from my clients and just seeing them make a connection between what was and what is, or what is and what could be. I really love talking about, your life could change in a heartbeat. You just got to
Mm.
start doing the things that you really want to do. And yes, money's important. We need it to do the things that we need to do, live and work, buy the things we want, travel to the places that we want, and at the end of the day, the whole point of money is to live the life that you want, right?
Mm.
And so it might not necessarily be about the money in a sense, but how can we create a life that you want and love, even when you don't have the money quite yet?
Hmm.
That's something that's really important. Um, and it just changes every day. It changes every month. You could go through a really hard month, a hard year. 2020 for everybody was really difficult.
Right.
And so it's important to go back and look at, okay, is this still important to me? Or is it something else? Do I need to make changes? And that's why having someone like me in there to help initiate those conversations can really make the change that you want, and make sure that you're still on track.
Mm. Some of your favorite subjects, and one of them you just mentioned, aha moments. So there's been moments where a client has just said they just kind of got it and they understood it. That must be so cool.
Yes, I love it. And, like you said, we weren't taught finances
Mm.
when we were younger, right? And there's a couple of reasons for that. I mean, you could go back to, in the olden days, it wasn't as important because things weren't as expensive. We didn't have as much interest. There weren't as many banks and all the things happening in the market. And, on a day like today where there's a crazy market happening with banks
Yes.
closing and all that,
Ah,
it just didn't exist back then, right? So it
right.
wasn't a priority for a lot of people. And then I don't know about you, but when I was 15, 16, or even 21, 22, I did not care as much about
Right.
that kind of thing. I was more interested in, am I going to be with my friends, or what sports am I going to play, or what college am I going to go to, or what
Mm.
am I doing on a Friday night, right? And so, yes, money wasn't necessarily taught, but I think it's becoming more and more important that the
Mm.
younger generations pay attention sooner, because the more that they can get a grasp on the finances, right now when they're young, will help not only themselves but future generations. And especially with all of the changes that are happening, it's a must. So, I joke with my friend who wants to start an adulting class. We've kind of gotten away from how do you be an adult in all areas. Like, some people need help doing laundry still. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with it.
Wow.
You just weren't
Yeah.
taught. But can we
Yeah.
provide more education? And there's a lot of stuff out there, but it can be really confusing. So helping someone sift through that is that aha moment of like, oh, I heard about that. I don't need to pay attention to it because that's not important for me right now. Or, oh, I heard about that. I want more information. Either way, it's really important to have a good understanding so you can have that moment.
Yeah. And another favorite subject is mental health. Does it play a big role in how you work with clients?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Really?
Uh, Money is probably the number one stress on people, quite frankly, hands down. You can have a lot of different stresses. You can have relationship stress, family stress, work stress. But if you have stress around money, it affects your mental health drastically.
Mm,
especially if you get to the point where you don't know if you can afford groceries or if you can
mm.
pay your rent. I mean, that just builds and builds and builds, and your mental health can decline so quickly. And like I said earlier, where if you don't write something down, if you don't speak it out loud, it can build in your mind, and then that will affect your mental health as well.
Wow.
And I personally have struggled with mental health. I've had anxiety. I've had depression. Um, and if you don't have the money to be able to take a break and take care of yourself, then
Mm,
it makes it even worse. So it's just kind of a snowball effect. And so, I work with people to try and plan for those things. Worst case scenarios, having savings, making sure that their job is what they need, even if it's not about the money. Um, but then also working with nonprofits to provide grants for people if they have a business to get through a hard time, or allow people to find facilities for mental health, or therapists, or whatever the case may be. Money is a driver for a lot of people around that mental health aspect, because what money actually does is just provides you opportunities,
mm,
right? So money equals opportunities. If I have
mm.
more money, I have more opportunities. I can take more time off work. I can pay to get a business coach. I can pay a therapist. I can get healthier food because healthy food is more expensive,
Yeah.
right? And so, how can we create a system where people have access to more money so that they can just have access to better health mentally,
Wow.
physically, emotionally, all of those things?
Well, you just made an aha moment for me,
Yes, my day is
Bryn.
complete.
Yeah, it's so true how that could just bring so much stress and depression and I don't know paranoia. The money can just bring all that because it just makes opportunity. You also talk about your favorite subject is personal growth and networking. I guess that all kind of goes hand in hand, doesn't it?
It does, definitely. As I said, one of my core values is connection.
Hmm.
And my other core values are authenticity and
Hmm.
creativity. And um, if I don't get personal growth, I won't be the most authentic version of myself, right? Because I will be stuck in my past versions, which were
Hmm.
fine, but they weren't my best. And as you learn more, you really can dive into who you are, and you can dive into what works best for you, and what makes the most sense to you. And then you can live a life that's more authentic, I find. Because if you're more aware of who you are, and you do that through personal growth, you're way more capable of helping other people, and in an authentic way. Create that connection so that you can network better, and not just pass out your business card or
Hmm.
just say hi. I'm an introvert, right? So I want to
So
be able
you
to make
say.
that deep connection with someone.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. And perhaps you're more of an ambivert, extrovert when you want to, and introvert when you need to.
Yeah, I will say I have learned how to extrovert very well
Mm,
because of my job. But at the end of the day, like most people, we always get a little nervous when we're going into a networking event and there's a bunch of
mm,
people there that you don't know. Um, Extroverts love it. Introverts
yeah.
like me, we're like, okay, pump yourself up. I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna talk to like three people, and then I might be done for the night. So yeah,
Yeah, your bio says an extroverted introvert.
yes.
Yes. And yeah, that is wonderful. Your social media, your Instagram has these great quotes, and one I wanted to ask
Mm,
you about. By shifting the distribution of wealth in this world, the LGBTQ plus community grows stronger.
mm.
How's that the case? That's wonderful.
Well, and it's not just for the LGBTQ plus community. I would say minority groups of any kind,
Ah,
right? Because the way our society works right now, money does equal power or
mm,
opportunities, as I said earlier.
sure.
The more money you have, the more backing you can put towards the causes that you enjoy, the politicians that you support, the
Mm,
businesses that thrive, right? And so by shifting where the money is to where it could be more equal, or even shift it so that it's better for some people for a while, it changes how those pieces are supported, how
Wow.
which politicians are supported, or which causes or which businesses. And when you support those minority groups specifically, they will get stronger because
Mm.
their mental health will get better. They have more opportunities. They can
Hmm.
pay their employees better. They can put their money where they want to rather than just like spend it where they need to spend it in order to survive. What it comes down to is surviving versus thriving. Are you living paycheck to paycheck just to survive? Or are you thriving and you're able to pay your bills and able to actually think about things that you would like to do and places that you would like to spend your money? Are you, when a friend says, "Hey, I have a new business," are you able to support them with no questions asked because you
Mm.
have the money and you're thriving and you want them to thrive as well?
Yeah, just kinda leveling the playing field, isn't it? It's, yeah, that's profound. By challenging our money stories, we open ourselves to abundance.
Mm, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I have a quote I came up with, which is not exactly PG, but it's abundant AF. And the reason I say that is because stories are what drive us.
Mm,
We as humans make meaning out of everything, and we create stories around it. If you give me a funny look, I'm going to think, I bet he doesn't like me,
mm.
you know. And that's a story that I created, which it could have just been that you were squinting because the sun was in your eyes. I don't know, which doesn't happen here because we're both inside. But uh, we make up stories, and if we look at those stories, some of it's true, some of it's fact, but some of it's not. And so, can we challenge the parts that aren't fact in those stories, in those specific money stories? Like, I won't be able to make enough money ever. I'm never going to be wealthy. My parents weren't wealthy. They were terrible with money. So I'm terrible with money. I'm
Mm.
always terrible with money. I can't stop spending money, those kinds of things. If we challenge those, then we can actually have abundance in a new way. And I don't mean just abundance in finances, but also abundance of relationships, of love, of support, of anything really. There's that saying of like, I forget exactly how it goes, but if you're focusing on one thing, that's what you get more of, right? It comes back to you. And so if we can focus on abundance, then we get more of that, and it changes because our money story, our belief has changed from the past.
Hmm. Yeah, and you talk about going into the why, right? Why are you doing that? And that's very interesting. Your money story. Yeah, what is your story around money and what's your journey with it? It's very interesting because we remember stories. We don't kind of remember, stuff we're supposed to memorize, but stories stick with us. Yeah, you're
Stories
right.
are emotional, and we
They
are
are emotional.
emotional human
Yeah.
beings. And so they say, if you want to share with someone, share a story versus just like bullet points, facts.
Mm,
And so it can be really impactful in those. And you mentioned the why behind it. We all go through the phase as a kid. If you
right.
have kids, I don't, but I have great nieces and nephews,
Mm.
and they go through that why phase. Why this? Why that? Why this? Why that? And as an adult, you're kind of like, can you just stop asking why, please? And we do, but our brains don't really. They
Mm.
continue to ask why. Why am I doing this? Why do I like this person? Why am I in this job? Why blah blah blah? So if we can find an answer to that why, it becomes ingrained of, okay, why am I not spending money on this thing that I want? Well, it's because I'm so ready to be done with debt and start thriving that I'm just shifting it.
Mm.
It's a perspective change. And if you can find that deep why of why you're doing something difficult, something that's out of your comfort zone, something that you're not used to, it's a lot easier to continue that behavior than to just let it go and give up.
Certainly. I don't know who said it, but something to the effect of, they saw a speaker and what was their message? The message was it was irrelevant. It's just how did they make you feel?
Hmm.
What was their story?
Hmm.
Doesn't matter what they said, it's what you heard and what you felt.
Right.
Um, yeah, that's your story, and then why. Mr. Sinek has, I know we have to give him credit for that, perhaps, but it's very true. As a youth, we're always taught why. You have this great essay, Brenna, where you on your site where you talk about not having enough gas and how
Hmm.
your partner doesn't work that way, but you do, and you run out of gas, and then you just have this aha moment
Hmm.
where this is how I've been living my life. I
Mm.
kind of go and I don't plan, and then I run out of it's a nice reflective essay.
Yeah, you always worry about putting something out there like that, but I know somebody can relate to this of uh, being a person where I used to always, and I say used to because I have changed since this time, that moment, the aha moment of never getting gas until the very last minute in my car.
Right. Right.
Thank goodness for hybrids and electric vehicles. I hope to have one day that I can plug it in at home. Um, but it's just, I was constantly running. Is at the end of the day, I realized that I was running from thing to thing, and I wasn't actually taking time to do the things that I needed to do in order to,
Mm,
to thrive. I was just surviving. I was just barely getting there, right? And so I kind of realized that if I do that with my car and how I fill it with gas, it's often how I'm going to do it with other things too. And I noticed that I wasn't sitting down to eat lunch because I was a go 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 person,
mm,
and that affects you, either not eating lunch or eating it so quickly. All those people say you should chew your food and
mm,
it's better for digestion. And then I would eat things that I wasn't supposed to eat because I wouldn't sit down to eat, you know, um, realizing that I was tired of go, go, go and always being on the edge and always waiting for the other shoe to drop. I just wanted to be able to take time and take time investing in myself, in my car, by putting gas in it, and not rushing so much. And ever since then, I now am like, oh my gosh, I have a half a tank of gas. I need to go fill up. It's so funny. I don't know what happened. My partner is so happy. Um, but it's just a small change that I could make for myself, that has changed other areas of my life.
yeah.
And like we've gone back to before mental health, it our society has a go 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 mentality in America specifically. Italians might do it the opposite, right? Can you find a middle ground for
Right.
yourself? And some
Right.
people are go go go, and that's fine as long as it's working for you. Some people are not. Um, but I was doing it to make myself feel like I was working hard enough. And
Mm,
what if I just already am working enough? What if I'm working more than enough? It's not, no, I'm not working enough. It's I'm working more than enough. So why don't I just take time to take a breath? Why don't I take time to fill up my car with gas, eat a
mm.
proper lunch, get enough sleep, and do what I need to do in order to perform the best?
Smell the roses, as they say.
Yes. Yes.
So, Brenna, on the podcast, I always bring this up how, I started my business in the 90s. I wasn't paying attention to myself, much like you just described. I was
Mhm.
eating pizza on the go, I was drinking lots of soda, and I was just working, working, working. I found myself at, 340 pounds. The doctor said to me, I was pre hypertensive, pre diabetic, if you don't stop what you're doing, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. She had just been born. And so, that's all I needed to hear. I turned everything around 7 months to a year. And then I did a bunch of things and I lost all the weight. And people ask me, and I could just see it when I'm describing this, how'd you do it? And I
Mhm.
just say discipline.
Yeah.
People is discipline. I didn't do anything special. I changed the way I did things, and it's just discipline. I wonder how discipline plays a role in your life.
Mm. That's a great question. Discipline is. something I grew up with. I grew up in a household where there was discipline for things. And, I've gone back and forth about discipline in my whole life because I don't want to like it, but I actually do like
Right.
it and I need it. We all need it. Um, what I like to think about when it comes to discipline is that making this change that is uncomfortable is less painful than the way you were living, right? And that's the only thing that generally drives change is you realize that making the change is easier than living the way that you've been living. Or something important to you comes up, like yourself, you have a why. I have to see my child graduate. That's so important to me. So that making the change in how you were eating and how you were living life was way easier than the thought of not being
Mm,
there,
mm.
right? So discipline to me is just having the mentality that what you're doing, which is hard, is going to be better than what you have been doing, or it will create something that will be better than what you have been doing, or who you are, and having that why
Wow.
behind it.
Have you, if I asked you this before you used to fill up your tank, would you have the same answer?
No.
Really?
Probably not. If you would have asked, thankfully, because of my personal growth journey, this question could change day to day,
Of
quite
course it can.
frankly.
Yeah.
But
It's
I've
wonderful.
always been one that I've had a lot of discipline. What I like, I love the book Grit. If you have read it,
Yes.
I have a lot of grit. I have a lot of grit, but do I have a lot of discipline? Not always.
Mm.
But what I do have is the driver for why I do things. And in my business, it's because I want other people to succeed that haven't succeeded before in the financial
Mm.
world, right? And that's my why. And that's how I create my discipline about how I go about my business and why I do what I do on a daily basis.
Do you find that when working with clients, a level of discipline is needed on their part?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I can, like a personal trainer, I can tell you to go do things at home or on your own. And unless you do it, nothing will change.
Right.
I can want it for you more than you want it for yourself, but that's only for a period of time. Because after that, it's all up to you. It's all up to you. I want you to have great finances. I want you to be able to save more money. I want you to get the job that you want with a great salary. And that's not my department, but just things that I talk with people about. Um, but unless you want it for yourself, unless you decide that you deserve it too, nothing will change.
Mm. Yeah. Do I deserve it? Do they ask
Yeah.
that question? That's wonderful. Do they really ask that?
Some people.
Wow.
you know, I work with a lot of minority groups and female, specifically LGBTQ. Um, Unfortunately, there's sometimes a mentality of, do I deserve this,
Oh, wow.
or I haven't deserved it in the past, or someone told me I don't deserve it, or it hasn't been given to me before. And everyone deserves what you want.
Yeah.
um, it's just a matter of having enough confidence in yourself that you do deserve it and that you can go after it. And that's why you want to surround yourself with people that support you and give you that accountability as well.
Yes, when somebody says that, I mean, you have to reassure them that they do. So you talked about not being a psychiatrist, but yeah, I mean, this is a different kind of level of support that's needed there.
It is. Yeah, and again, not a therapist, but
Right.
I
Therapist.
want to be a support, and I always suggest people go to someone in that licensing. Um, but at the end of the day, again, it's that support piece. I want to be that support person, and sometimes you have to let people know that they deserve it more than they believe it for a little while. So
Mm.
my partner does this for me all the time when I have bad days in business or I don't know if I'm doing enough or whatever. My partner knows that I deserve to have a great business and that I deserve whatever I want because I'm working hard at it. And so I have to take that on, or I get to. right? I
Mm.
don't have to believe it myself. My partner believes it for me. It drives me until I start believing it myself. So find that person that can believe in it for you so much that you
Mm.
then start doing it. I had a business coach saying that, like, if you don't believe in yourself, I will believe in you, and then you'll notice that you can believe in yourself.
Hmm.
And so I really do know that that is what helps people.
Support.
Mhm.
Yeah, you said it earlier. You are the person that you surround yourself with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm. Brendan Wilson, what motivates you
Depends on the day. No. I think
right
we all
now?
know that. What motivates me is um, creating a life that I love and seeing other people create the life that they love, and being their most authentic self and being accepted for that. I went through a time in my life that I don't necessarily need to get into today, but I wasn't accepted for being myself.
Yeah.
And I just want to have a world where people are celebrated and supported, for being their most authentic selves. Um, but then also that they know that they can create whatever life they want. They just need the right tools. And some of those can come from me, or some of those come from other people like yourself. Is you provide a platform for people to
Hmm.
get their ideas out there, and that's what I need, that's what other people need, and just allowing people to get the tools that they need and the resources that they need to create whatever they want.
And that's a wonderful, wonderful answer, Brenda. And I smile when I see you write that you and your partner with your dogs out there in the beautiful countryside of Colorado. It's absolutely wonderful, absolutely wonderful. How do you measure success?
Ooh, that is different for everybody,
Yeah.
right? And when I was struggling with some mental health, a success could have been that I got up that day.
Hmm.
um, I think that it's different for everyone. For me right now, my measurement of success is how many people I help with their finances. And then am I aligning myself with my core values, creating connections, being authentic, being creative. And a big success is my partner happy, right? And it's not just like, am I making them happy, but also like, are they doing what they love? Those kinds of things. So everyone measures success differently, and I often have this conversation with people around, what do you say is success? I had a
Hmm.
client that was worried about some new debt from buying a house, and it was so hard because he didn't have debt before, but now he does. And so I'm like, yes, but you have a house.
Right. 30 years. I owe all this money. Yes.
Yeah,
It's mortgages are traumatic to some. Yes.
they are. And can we rethink what success is? Like, yes, you have debt, but that doesn't mean that you're unsuccessful. Your
Right.
success now is that you have a home and that you get to create whatever you want within that home.
Mm.
So it really just changes, and it depends on the person.
Yeah. So his financial story had a negative connotation to debt. That's
Hmm.
very interesting.
Hmm. Yes.
Very interesting. Your firm you've created Citrine Amber, and it's wonderful. Citrine, you talk about happiness and abundance and prosperity, and of course, uh, gold. I'm sorry, Citrine Gold. I beg your pardon.
Hmm.
And gold is logical, and it's a wonderful kind of start to your firm. Why did you decide to do it, and how's it going?
Great. Uh, yeah, I worked for one of the larger corporations, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. And again, it didn't hit my core value of creativity, so I had to go
Mm,
out on my own, and I wanted to be a little bit more authentic in myself. Um, and like you said, I wanted to blend the emotional, logical, psychological, the citrine, the happiness, the prosperity,
mm,
the abundance mindset, with the logical of gold. It's solid, it's there, it's what we know as backing of finances. Um, and honestly, it's been going amazingly
good for you.
because, I have dreams of creating something bigger. And does it go well every day? No, it doesn't. But it's going amazingly in that I feel very fulfilled in where I am, which
Mm.
I measure as success. Two, I'm helping people that generally don't feel like they're being heard and listened to,
Mm.
and people that may not have the ability to um, talk to someone before. And so having a business that's a little bit different than some of the traditional ones, I used to worry like, oh, there's so many financial advisors out there. How am I going to differentiate myself? And there is space for everyone to thrive as a financial advisor, because there are different people, and the people that I connect with are my people, and I just love being able to get that one-on-one time with them, really building a long-term relationship, and even becoming friends with a lot of my clients.
Well, Bernie, your genuinity shines through, certainly in our discussion, but in everything that you released. That the essay we talked about, and your posts, and one can tell you're very caring. You know, people when they become friends with their clients is a true sign, because if they don't care about them, they just kind of step away, and you deal with it. And it's absolutely remarkable. Thank you so much for your time today. Absolute pleasure. How can we get in touch with you for anybody who's listening?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I've loved being here. You can go to my website, which is www.citrineandgold.com, AND, and citrine is spelled Citrine. And then, my email is there, as well as I am on Instagram at Citrine and Gold if you want to check out my Instagram page.
Yeah, and the Instagram page is great. Start from the website. You have all the links there. I thank you so much for your time today, and I wish you well. Yeah, as I mentioned, my girlfriend's in your area. Perhaps one day we'll all get together and have a cup of coffee.
That'd be great. Thanks so much.
You be well, Berna. Bye now.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinn's Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you find lots of resources, and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pinn's Discipline Conversations.